Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fenton Perspective here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Thanks, whoever's producing out there. Thank you for texting me and telling me that, asking me where I was. That was so sweet of you. I don't know who it is, but thanks anyhow. Welcome to the Fenton Perspective. I'm glad you guys are with me here today on Revolution.radio. There's an alien staring at me right now. It's got to be one of the producers. Okay, so I just want to say thanks, you guys, for tuning in today. I'm sorry I'm late. The server was yellow. It's usually green by now, and I just think someone disconnected a little late. That's all. It's no big deal. It just takes us a few minutes to get reconnected because what happens is I make that connection, and then it just kind of freezes everything, and I have to hang up on everybody and restart the call. So anyhow, it's all good. I've got an amazing guest for you guys today. Her name is Mina, and she's from Andromeda, I believe. And I hope I got her planet right. I hope I got her constellation right. I hope I got something right in that. But she'll tell me all about it, and you, when we get back here in a few minutes with her. But you guys, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do anymore. I'm flailing out here in the wind. Just trying to survive, and as you guys all are too, and things are just crazy. And I've been thinking about so many things to talk to you guys about, but again, I had a friend call me the other day and said, all you do is bellyache on your show. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, you call it belly aching. Okay, this is the reality of what our world is like right now, and I'm complaining about certain little problems we got, and you call it belly aching. Okay, so obviously this is an older person, because how many young people say belly aching, right? So I'm kind of like, what do I do? How do I come up with fluffy, fun things to say to you guys? Because there's nothing fluffy or fun going on anymore. 10 or 12 years ago, I used to complain about 2 times a month. And now I'm complaining every week. And I get it. No one wants to tune in to listen to me kvetch. I get it. No one likes that. But you guys, if we don't kvetch, if we don't sit here and complain, if we don't go against the norm, what are we going to do? I mean, someone's got to be out there saying the world's coming to an end. And yes, I am Henny Penny. I am going to sit here and say the world's coming to the end and the sky is falling. The sky is not actually falling. The chemtrails are falling out of the sky. And I'm at a loss of what to do anymore on the show. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw this out to you guys because I don't know what else to do anymore. I really don't. I mean, I lay in bed at night usually I start on Friday night thinking about what I'm going to complain about on Monday. And by the time Monday rolls around, because it's always right before I go to bed, I keep myself up extra hours because I get so pissed off at everything that by Monday I usually haven't had any sleep for 3 days. Seriously, it takes me hours to fall asleep after I start laying there and thinking about the show. So I'm going to come up with a new routine. I'm going to start thinking about the show on Wednesday, and I'm going to do it in the afternoon so it doesn't interrupt my sleep and make me angry. Because it's just really, this whole last 4 years or so, it seems like every Thursday I go, I got to come up with something for the show on Monday. And then by Friday I'm laying there and I'm thinking, oh yeah, the World Health Organization, that's got to be the most important thing. I should just go get Dr. Rima on the show and just start complaining about that and really go, tell you guys you have to listen to her. It's so important. And then I think, oh my God, well, what about what's going on in the politics and all that? Oh my God, you need to listen to the War Room with Steve Bannon. And then I'm like, oh no, then they've got to go over listen to Roger. And then they've got to go over listen to Alex. I mean, I keep thinking of all the people that I pay attention to weekly, daily, whatever. And then I think of all my great spiritual stuff that I pay attention to. And I go, wow, maybe I should just start going down that path. Maybe all I should do is say, oh, go listen to this, guru type person. They're amazing. They'll get you like all happy and everything will be wonderful. And you can create your own world around you and not pay any attention to the fact that the world's being overrun and we're going to World War III and that they're giving death shots to everybody. I mean, yeah, let's do that. Let's all join a cult and become, the kumbaya and everything's wonderful and the Space Brothers are going to save us. I don't know what to say anymore about that. I get very upset with this whole Space Brothers are going to save us. I guess I'm going to go down that path today because I've been told by my space brothers, actually my space family, I want to say that my God, whoever God is out there, that's the guy I deal with. You guys all know my story. I died when I was 18 months old, and an angel came to my grandmother and said she's got work to do, and I didn't get to die then, and I didn't get to die the second time either, and I had work to do, and they spit me back. And, I keep coming back, and I'm like, what am I coming back here for? Is it to complain on the radio show every Monday? Maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's a big cosmic joke on Lorien. Maybe, maybe this whole thing is all about me sitting here and contemplating my navel for the show every Monday. I don't know. But, yeah, I had a call from a pretty well-known person in the UFO community last week. And we were discussing this very problem. It's like I have been in contact with angels, aliens. I've seen ships like you guys can't even imagine. I have dealt with very benevolent, very loving, very not even human formed or gray alien or reptilian. Well, a reptilian did hug me once, so I do know what the reptilians feel like. He was pretty interesting. You guys know that story too. I was driving and an invisible reptilian hugged me through the seat of the car from the back. And I could feel the little scaly kind of, it felt like a frog's belly. That's the only way I can describe it to folks. Skin on my cheek. And he started talking to me, kind of in my ear, but in my head at the same time on my right side. I'll never forget it. I almost crashed the car. It was so bizarre. Anyhow, so I have had an invisible reptilian hug me, and I knew he was a reptilian because I could feel the skin on my cheek, and I could kind of feel the scales of his arms that were hugging around my waist. And what that felt like too. So I know that it was a reptilian, and that was interesting. That was really interesting. I'm really glad he didn't materialize, because if he'd materialized, I would have rolled the car and I would have been dead. So I knew that one was a thank you for being invisible kind of moment. So yeah, so I have had that, but I've never seen, like I say in my bio on my website, I've never seen an alien or been abducted that I know of. Okay? Because you guys got to remember something. You don't always remember any of this, and that's important. But the stuff I do remember is very phenomenal. I mean, I've been taken to the Hall of Akashic Records. I have had a class with Einstein, which probably might have been a gray alien that was in disguise. I mean, who knows? Because they, when I was in the Akashic Records, I was with a guy who had recently died that was the head of the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And it was mind-boggling. I mean, he was standing right in front of me by the side of the bed, and he goes, you got to get up and go with me. So I left my body there, got in my other body, and we took off together and went to the Hall of the Akashic Records, and oh my God, what a night that was. I mean, that was a wild evening. I got answers to the universe again. I mean, it was like crazy. And of course, I can't remember a whole lot of it. See, this is the part that really upsets me. I guess I'm going to kvetch about this today too, is, I'll get back to the guy who called me, and about the positive things to say on the radio. But, anyhow, every time I've been taken someplace like that, like when I think I died and went the second time to be with the light, the source, God, whatever. And that's the time that I felt so much love that I came home and tried to kill myself. You guys all know that story. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, why did they give me this information? Why did they tell me I got to go? I got work to do. Why did they send me back? If all I'm going to do is, struggle and have to work 7 days a week until I'm 80 years old to pay the rent. I mean, who wants to live like this? This is kind of nuts. I should have been working every Monday, and I would have had enough money socked away in my 401k or whatever by now to have a normal life, but I never did that. I was always an artist, or, I was always doing something artistic. I was never doing anything that was, well, that's not true. I did help my husband's run 2 computer companies. So there you go. And now I'm a bookkeeper. So I don't know. Maybe I am doing something normal. But, I've never done the normal corporate gig. I tried it a couple times. It didn't work for me because I am not like anybody else. And I like to watch hockey and do accounting at the same time. And people don't tolerate that well at the office. And I like to sing. They don't tolerate my bad singing either. So there's a lot of problems with all that. So, yeah, so maybe that's what I meant to do, is just, try to recall all the great things that have happened to me. They're wonderful, but they haven't, really manifested out here as a, the greatest thing in the world to be doing. But I will say this, God has taken really good care of me. I mean, whenever I've said, look, I'm not doing this anymore, good luck, have fun, I'm checking out, and I'm not going to play your game anymore, I'm just going to go off and do my own thing and raise goats, and I'll never talk to you again, God. And I've been known to say that. I literally just, the next day, I feel great. God's talking to me, and he says, look, this isn't the best thing in the whole world. Your job isn't the easiest, but you got a roof over your head. You have a toilet to go to, unlike when I've been homeless before, where I didn't, which is really bad. That's the one thing I did do when I was talking to God a lot back when I was a lot younger, like every minute of every day. I said, look, just don't ever let me be like that again. I can't do that again. I don't want to be in my 80s homeless. I can't do that. I really need to have shelter and food and electronics. I know. You guys are all going, oh my God, what is she demanding? I'm demanding shelter, food, electronics, and a car. Those are the 4 things I have to have, or I just can't function. I mean, I don't know what I do without my 3 computers and my, who cares? Honestly, I don't care if there's food in the refrigerator. I care more that I've got 3 working computers, So, yeah. So God's taking care of me. I guess I really shouldn't be complaining at all. And I have the ability to work. And so there is that. And I really have no gripes. I really have nothing to gripe about. But it would be nice. Here's the one part of that. And I'll get back to my friend who called me. It would be really nice if he would just say, look, this is the mission. See, I don't know what the mission is. And every day it's always like they're steering me in one direction, then steering me in another, and steering me in another. And I'm not sure what the end goal is. That's the part that's very upsetting to me. And I can't trust anybody else to give me the answer, because there is nobody else who can give me that answer. Only God can give it to me. So I'm really, that's the part that's upsetting to me. And then I realized the other day, I thought, well, if God doesn't want me to know what it is, maybe it's something that I wouldn't want to do. And then I'm sitting here going, oh my God, what if it's something horrific and I'm not going to come out of it very well? Well, that's the way it is. I watch Alex Jones almost daily, and he's not afraid to die. So I guess I've got to get over that. I never was afraid to die up until a few years ago, and now I kind of am, but I got to get over that fear. I've got to keep telling God it's okay. Whatever you have planned for me is okay, and I'm not afraid to die, and I got to mean it, because I meant it before, and he really touched me at that point. And I've got to stop letting this worldly place, I guess, start bothering me again. So that's really where I got to go with that. I know that. And all of you out there shaking your head, yeah, that's what we've all got to do. Everybody who's a radio talk show host now, you guys, you mentioned the word Trump, they've got us all in fear of even going to prison for saying that word. I mean, it's turned into a communist society or all around us. And I don't know what's going to happen to all the hosts here at Revolution Radio. I worry about that too. I pray every day for everybody here at Revolution Radio because we could all be in trouble. But, I try to think positive about it. I'm not going to worry about it. And then getting back to my friend real quickly here before we get to our guest, I got to say he was very adamant that we do create our own reality. And even though the ETs aren't going to come down and save us all, that they are talking to every one of us individually, and we all do have a mission, and it will be fulfilled. God's plan is always fulfilled, and remember, angels are aliens too. So whoever's dealing with the angels is dealing with aliens as well, and probably some of the most higher beings out there. I can't say that I know very many people that have an agenda from the grays, that they're, I don't know that they I just haven't met anybody who's being abducted, the technical word of abduction, that comes back and says, I've got a mission. All they're shown is that the world's falling apart. We got to take care of it. And I get that. But, you can get that information from the nightly news. I mean, it's not like the ET's telling them something they don't know. Now, what they may be doing, and I'm pretty sure of this, is that they may be instilling some kind of genetic need to help the world, and I get that because I've got that big time from the God figure that I've been dealing with. I mean, that's all I got is, you've got a mission, you've got to go back and you've got to do this, and I'm thinking, why in the hell do I got to go back? Who cares? I'm nobody important, but apparently there's something I've got to do. So I'm doing it. Maybe this is it, and that's fine. If that's all it is, that's fine. So I guess that's what I'm saying today is I got to stop kvetching as much, and belly aching, as my friends all tell me I'm doing now, is belly aching. But if you guys can think of anything positive for me to talk about, please do, because I'm having a really hard time with it. I'm really struggling. I'd love to be able to say, oh, everything's wonderful and rosy and it's beautiful and, whatever, but it's not for me, and it shouldn't be for you either right now, because nobody should be in that bubble of everything is wonderful and not really seeing the real truth that's going on out there. There's a very vast evil in this world, and we've got to do something about it so we can get back to that place where we all do love each other and care about what's going on and live in that bubble. And everybody's bubble are just interfacing with each other out of love. And that's it. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take, but it definitely needs to happen. So I'm sure my guest has something to say about that today. So Mina, the Andromedan, is with us today. Mina, are you there?
I sure am. Hi.
Oh, wonderful. Is it Andromeda or Dromedan or what do we do? What do we do with these planets out there?
Yeah. So I do come from the Andromedan galaxy, not the constellation.
Galaxy, okay.
Yep.
See, I knew it was not a planet. I just didn't know what it was. All right.
Yep. So
now from there, but before you get on to where you're from there, how do you know that you're from there, and where are you on the earth as a person?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's start there.
Okay, well, I came to this earth as a fully embodied starseed. So what that means is that I came knowing everything as far as that I wasn't from this planet, that I wasn't human. So I was a very strange child, and I didn't pass through the veil of forgetting, as some people call it. So I came with not every memory intact from every life, but most memories intact from every life. And so I kind of grew up in a linear fashion with the memories integrating from my 3 lives at first was the first one that integrated. So the archangel life that I had as well as the Mintalkin Mer person and the Sirius B cetacean being. So I had these memories as a child of swimming in the ocean, and I would describe things that a child shouldn't have had access to. I was talking in complete sentences at 11 months old. And I was very precocious. I would climb on top of the roof at 2 a.m. to stare at the stars and communicate with them. So I was very, very advanced for my age and also very precocious. And so I would tell my mom, like, you're not my mom. And, I'm sure that she loved to hear that. But so I've known and had all of these gifts and abilities from the time that I was born. Now they've definitely gotten stronger and they've developed. And as I grew older, and I've died 4 times, and then I've had many near-death experiences, and each one has brought a fractal of my soul back into this incarnation. So this is my whole life. So this is me having a human experience, but I am still my higher dimensional selves as well. The Andromedan.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I got to stop you right there. So it's like you got a whole bunch of different personalities all together, and you guys all get along, right?
Yeah, it's more like I tap into them when needed, when need be. But the Andromedan is definitely my origin, so I channel my higher self of that version more often than the others.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, I got to ask you this. The angelic being that you were, what level is that? And have you ever been a gray?
No, I haven't. I haven't been a gray, but I definitely have some insight on them, and I have a very interesting perspective that I think you'll appreciate. But the archangel, I was an archaea. Technically, it's the feminine version of the archangels. We're the counterpart to the archangel, and so my archaea she goes by many names, but Michelle, Michaela, and the Lady of Faith, and so she is the twin ray counterpart to Archangel Michael, and
right.
So my birth name actually is Michelle, and I changed it. I knew at a young age I had to change it because I had to hide. And Michael's been with me my whole life, and so I changed to the Hebrew version, which is Michaela. So it was like hiding in plain sight kind of thing. But anyways, so yeah, I have an interesting take on the Greys if you're curious to hear.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the Greys, because we got plenty of time, I'm going to keep asking questions about when you grew up because I find it just so fascinating, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And when you died each time, now the 2 times I died, the first time I don't remember anything because my grandmother, I was 18 months old, and my grandmother saw an angel over the crib telling her that, I was probably dying or dead, and then they kept me alive or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. But I do know there was an angel there because my grandmother said it was the same angel she saw when she was 12 or 13 dying from rheumatic fever at their farmhouse. She remembers it coming in the window and standing by her bed and telling her she was going to be fine because she had work to do.
Right.
And then, of course, it comes to her later over me and says, well, this one's got work to do. So my guess is that they were just trying to keep her alive to make me, like they did my father, because my father was heading to North Korea, and none of his buddies came back of his whole group, and apparently someone took him off the plane in Hawaii and said, are you Norman Fenton? He said, yes. They go, well, are you related to General Fenton? And he said, yes, because at that time, all Fentons in the United States were related to each other. We may have been like 80th cousins, but we were all related because there were only one family of Fentons in Portland, Oregon back then, and that was my parents, or my great-grandparents or whatever. Yeah, point is, they were all related. So he said yes. And so they took him off the plane, and he ended up having a cush job in Hawaii, which he felt terrible about the rest of his life because everybody else died. And I always say that was divine intervention because, I wouldn't be here without that happened, So I'm always concerned that there's something going on when you keep finding out that you've been placed here for a reason. What is that reason, So there's that. So now, and having said all that, what is the reason they gave you to be here and keep coming back to this planet? Because you've said you've died how many times? 3 or 4?
4 times that dead, so heart stopped, had to be resuscitated. Yeah. And then I've had some NDEs, and for me, for the first time that it happened, I was 9 years old. So it happened after the government had been taking me when I was in kindergarten to study me, and that's a whole nother story.
Well, we'll get into that too, because I run the mind control and super soldier conferences, so everybody knows me for that, and I'm pretty sure that every major contactee is also in a super soldier in some capacity, because the government knows about all of us even before we're born, practically. So, but go ahead. Yeah.
But so at 9, I drowned. And so that time I don't remember. All I know was that I integrated another fractal of my soul.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm a hybrid soul in the sense that I've integrated past life fractals into this current iteration. So the first one was at 9. The second one, I had a similar story to yours where I took my life at the age of 19. And that one I remember. And it was after I died 4 times on the way to the hospital. And the last time I was floating in space, and I hear a voice, and he said, "Did you think that it would be that easy?" And I said, "No, but did it have to be this hard?" And
exactly.
And he's like, "You can't die. You can't die. You've got work to do. You've got a mission. You have to go back." And I was like,
Oh, so God. Everybody I talk to, they get the same line. You think you'd come up with something new for each of us, right?
Well, it's funny because when I came back, and the psychiatrist, because of course when you commit suicide, they ask you, "Okay, if I let you out, are you going to do it again?" And I said, "No." And she was like, "Well, why not? What's changed since now and then?" I'm like, "I can't die." I can't die. It doesn't matter. Why would I try? It's a wasted effort. And she kind of looked at me,
Yeah, well, I think that they're finally getting that from a lot of people. I think they may have heard it before. Let's hope.
Yeah, exactly. And then other times were not of my choice. I was in a really abusive relationship, and I was drowned and beaten. And so I went through some really kind of horrific stuff, and then I've also went through some health stuff, and so every time I integrated another fractal, and I got more downloads, more memories from more lives.
Right.
And so that purpose, the reason why, and I think the reason why I didn't pass through the veil forgetting was so that I could help piece together the missing pieces for a lot of people, and also be a point of validation. Because so many people are floundering around out there thinking they're crazy, or thinking they don't understand what does this mean? What is this? Am I alone? And so it's really nice when you can put those pieces together. And so I was given all of this galactic history, all of this galactic knowledge, and stuff that even whistleblowers that I've talked to are like, "How do you know this?" I'm like, "Because this information is given to me. I didn't pass through the veil forgetting, so I have it." And so I can be a point of validation for people. And to be honest, for me, that may not sound like a lot, but it is when you have somebody who is drowning, you know what I mean? Who's just looking to not be alone, not to feel crazy, to feel a sense of purpose and a connection. So, if I could do that.
And I've never had that problem. My problem is I'm too connected, and it's hard. Being here and knowing what we know, I'm telling you, it's very, very difficult.
Oh yeah, I never assimilated to being human.
God, it's really, really hard. I mean, I remember at 13 years old, I used to go up, or 14-ish, I used to walk up in the middle of the night. Now, this is weird. My parents would let me go up in the middle of the night in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s, and walk like over half a mile to the high school and run the track in the middle of the night as a 14-year-old girl. And I look back on that, and I think that is the weirdest thing. I would never let my daughter do that. Okay? So they're letting me, 11 o'clock, 10:30 in midnight. I'd go up there and I'd run, and they'd be like, "Okay, no problem."
Yeah, I get the feeling, though, you kind of went to gray school, so I wonder if you were really just going out there and running, or if you were being taken.
Well, now I look back on it, and I wonder, because I used to stand there and scream, "Take me home, I don't belong here." That was one place I could do that, scream, "I don't want to be here anymore," and I was already ready to go.
Right? Same.
Exactly. So, and I look back on it now and I think, oh, that was so weird. Something must have happened because,
Mm-hmm.
who knows? So, whatever. But point is, it's not easy for us to be here. And I used to see all my past lives all the time. And then here's the horrific part. I start meeting the guys I was having relationships with in past lives. They just
Mm.
start showing up when I was about 16 or 17. And I'd be like, wow, I know this guy. How fast can I get rid of him this time? Isn't that terrible? But it's true. It's so true. And anyhow, so let's get back to your story. But yeah, no, it's tough being here. And the worst part, I think, for us all that go through this type of experience is the knowing that we have a mission. And yours sounds like it's pretty clear, though. Mine is not clear, and I'm sure there's a reason why. God does not make mistakes. Okay, so I learned that a long time ago too. So, what is your mission? Do you know, and is it very clear for you?
Yeah, so I've always known from a young age that I was sent here to affect change in the world and to help guide other starseeds. I didn't have a mission of direct connection to helping humans. It was more that I was going to help awaken other starseeds and kind of let them know their purpose and empower them basically so that they can kind of fall in line with what their soul's journey and their purpose is. And so that's kind of what I do, and so I have been for a long time. I mean, the word starseed. When is the first time you ever heard that word?
Gosh, it's been a long time for me, but I was dealing with people that said starseed probably back in the mid 90s. I would say, isn't that about right? Mid 90s, yep. Late 90s, something. Yeah. Yep. Were you born then?
No, I was born before that. I know I look young, but I'm not.
I was going to say, you look like a baby. You're probably like 20. Oh, my God. How old are you? I'm not to, blast it over the airwaves, but were you born in the 80s?
Yep, I was born in the early 80s, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, but when did you decide that you were a starseed, and when did you first hear that word?
I thought I made the word. I'd never heard it before, ever. I've been using it since I was a kid, and I started waking people up around me before anybody that I knew was talking about it. I never met anyone like me until way, way later in life. I never knew I never knew there were books about anything like that. I never talked to anybody. I just used that word because my Andromedan thinking is I come from the stars. I'm a seed planted here and spread to grow. I'm a starseed. And so in my mind, I came up with that word because nobody had ever heard that word before. And
yeah, I got to get you with my friend Misha because, do you know Misha Johnston?
No, but I'm terrible with names. So
okay. Misha started her Starseed Awakening group in the late 90s, and she's been a major contactee that the government has dealt with since she was born, and she's in her 70s now, and I thought she was the one who came up with that word in a group in Los Angeles back in the mid 80s. I could be wrong.
Well, the thing is if I came in with all of that knowledge, then I wouldn't have need to be told it because I already had it. Remember, I didn't pass through the veil forgetting. So we all have the same collective knowledge being extraterrestrials. We come in, you know what I'm saying? So we have we should have the same intel.
Yeah, I was going to say, you and Misha sound like you're the same person. I'm talking to you, and I'm thinking, God, this is Misha and his clone, or her sister, or whatever. You guys got to get together, because I think she would adore you, and it would be a wonderful relationship. And, she runs all these groups, and I'm thinking maybe you guys could get together and you could run a group under her auspice, and it would be really awesome, awesome.
Yeah, and I was taken in the 80s, too, for that program, so I wonder.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wasn't going to go there right away. I was going to wait till after the break, but let's go there now, and then we can talk about the types of different aliens after the break, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So let's talk about the military intervention. I'm going to bring up a brief thing here just for everybody to remind them that most of the super soldiers that I've dealt with over the years, and I've been dealing with them since the early 2000s, and I didn't realize what they were until about 2009, By 2012, I put on my first super soldier mind control and targeted individual conference. Mm-hmm. I did it in 12, 13, and 14. By the time I was done with 14, the government was torturing me outright. Literally, they lasered my tongue. They were doing voice-to-skull communication, telling me not to talk anymore. They killed 3 or 4 people that were on my stage. It was getting very ugly, and I said to them, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore, and they've left me alone since then. Mm-hmm. So, it was a big learning curve for me. I realized that at some point along the line, I was used in some kind of program or being groomed for some kind of program, and I failed miserably. So they let me go. So that was how I got involved in all this, because many of the super soldiers I was dealing with would come up to me and say, I know you. And I'd be like, I don't know you. Oh, yeah. You were there when I was a little kid. And I'm like, what? Yeah, you were like in your, 18 or 20 or, something like that. And I was like 5 or 6 or 4, whatever. And I'd be like, no, it wasn't me, I was in denial for a long time. And finally, Misha, who has been involved in a lot of this, said, look, you had to be there because there's no reason for all of these guys all over the world to find you. Mm-hmm. Why would they find you? There you go. Mm-hmm. So between God's hand and their memories, I pieced it together that I was probably being used in some kind of like babysitting program, or grooming program myself, but I probably didn't like it very much, and I probably started fighting with people because I'm pretty good with that, and they probably just kicked me out. I'm surprised I'm still alive, to be honest with you. But like I said, God has really been a major force in my life, and I know I've got protection now, so thank God for doing that, and here we are. So now, tell me a bit about your interaction with these people and what you know of it.
So I think mine was a little different situation. Mine was more of kind of like a Montauk kind of.
Sure. So, that's because they knew you were a starseed.
Right. So I was taken in kindergarten, and my mom. So just a little backstory about my family. They've been like legacy military. I've got my mom was like in line to go to the Pentagon. She was a linguist. And we're all like incredibly intelligent. My bloodline is really interesting. I'm related to every major monarch and every genius.
Right? That is so. You're like the 100th person I've talked to that said the same thing. I mean, everybody I know that is a major contactee, they can trace their lineage back to kings of Germany or princes or whatever, and I'm just a lowly steward, like part of that royal family, but whatever.
Well,
but anyhow.
I mean, we choose the bloodlines because we need certain bloodlines to help kind of embody the fractal. So depending on what your galactic lineage is, which by the way, I want you to do a galactic report of mine. I'll do it for you. But anyways, depending on what that lineage is, dictates where your bloodline needs to be so that you can have a conducive integration. And so a lot of us also choose difficult bloodlines so that we can heal generational curses, generational traumas, things like that.
Oh, yeah, and I chose a really good one. I'll tell you about that personally later. I mean, so, if I am related to the Stewarts, they didn't do a very good job.
Right, exactly. Right? What's worse than the monarchs, if we're talking about corruption and everything else? And then my grandfather's a Holocaust refugee. He's a Schindler Jew. Okay. Then we got Native American. So I got all the things so that I could heal all the traumas. But anyways, so this program was in
So your mom, they're taking you from the time you're a little kid? Is that how it started?
It was in kindergarten for 4 months only. So this is right before, it was before I got my first fractal, so before I died the first time. And it was in Tucumcari, New Mexico, was where we lived. But I was taken on a bus an hour and a half away and to a military installation. It was one of like 3 kids on the bus. And it took forever to get there. And my mom would be working, so she wouldn't know when I would leave to go to school. And so I'd get on the bus, an hour and a half there, I'd fall asleep, and we'd get to this military installation. It had a guard shack and like the old time, like up and down, guard gates, nondescript building, no signs. And the guard was interesting. Now I have been in the military, so now I know something about it. it was very unique, like uniform. It was like a white kind of like almost like a construction hat, but not, but military style, and beige dress uniform. I never,
Beige.
yeah, it was like beige and then blue pants and then like some kind of that like strap across his chest from like from one side of the shoulder to the bottom, like a sachet, like from, yeah. And so, and
the only reason I reacted the way I did is because that's Marines, if I remember correctly. Aren't those the colors they use? But more than that, the secret space program, from what I can gather from the intel I've been getting, most of the Americans military that are on those craft are either wearing totally black or totally beige, like khaki color. That's it. They don't wear any other colors except for an insignia, and that's it. So I'm just surprised there's beige involved at all, because they're using that as a secret space program thing. Anyhow, but go ahead. Very interesting.
They ushered us in, and as soon as I walk into the building, I don't remember anything after that. I wake up on the bus going home, and it's kind of one of those things, like I asked now, since it's been some time, I asked my higher self, and they were conducting tests, testing abilities to see what abilities I had. But because I hadn't integrated the next fractals, and I guess this is why they did it this way, they really couldn't glean a lot. So I was given an FBI number. They were tracking me. I did find out, and the reason I found out is because later on I thought, well, I'm going to go join the military because my mom was in the military, and I'm going to do this. And I got offered. They wanted me. They had government organizations, acronyms, seek me out, wanting me to join. And then so they were like, oh, did you know you had an FBI number? I didn't even know what that was. I had to Google it at the time. And I asked her, I was like, what's that? She goes, I can't tell you, but you can Google it. So I Googled it, and at the time, the definition has changed, but at the time it said, this is a number given to a terrorist or a person of interest.
Oh,
well,
geez.
I had it before the age of 18, so yeah, so here we are. So I know that whatever they tried to find out, they couldn't find out what they wanted to know. And so they were unsuccessful. And so I was still roughly protected afterwards. And then a few years later, I got that fractal, and then really things started to pick up. So
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So do you remember at all what they were testing you for?
Just what my higher self showed me, which was like testing psychic abilities, telepathy, things like that. So really, really, in fact, you can actually on the CREST files, and CIA, I actually looked this up on the CREST files. There was a program in the 80s that they were working in collaboration with China to study children with gifted abilities. And I thought, I wonder if that was the one. But they said that they were conducting it in China. But I was like, of course they were doing it here. They would never say it, though.
Of course, because we also know that Joseph Mengele was quite alive after the war, and he was quite in the United States running MK Ultra and all kinds of programs here, genetic cloning, all kinds of things. I mean, the guy was all over the place running every kind of evil operation you can imagine for our government.
Yeah.
Okay. So who was that in conjunction with, I mean, that's in conjunction with the Bilderbergers at that point, I would assume, the higher echelon people, not a country, but, who knows? So, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it was very interesting.
Did you ever end up out at Montauk at all?
No, I just kind of looked at it as it was like the New Mexican version,
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, look, they were doing it everywhere, and it was quite. It's people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that, but it's the truth, folks. I mean, I now have interviewed probably 200 or 300 people that have been involved in these programs, and I'm not going to say it today. I'm going to wait for another show. But I just interviewed a guy that was in the same program that Duncan O'Finian was in. And he's older, so I think he's more like the Misha Johnston era of super soldier mind control people. And he's quite famous. And I was shocked. I was probably the only one who figured out that he was that kind of person. Everybody else thinks he's something else, but he said something in the interview where he said, they started teaching me how to kill people at 8 years old, and everybody assumed it was the mafia that's ever interviewed this guy. And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, who? And he goes, you're the first person that's ever asked me that. And he goes, I will tell you. And he told me about being developed as basically in a petri dish, and his mother was part of a program where they were actually birthing children with the genetics they wanted to develop super soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely wondered about something happening to my mom. She was in the military when she was pregnant with me.
Did she ever say anything about intervention during her pregnancy?
So the only thing we wonder is if there was intervention from ET, not necessarily military. Although she's also very gifted as well. In fact, I get a lot of my language abilities.
Is she a contactee?
She is a hybrid soul like me, and so as far as being a contactee, she is a channeler and she does light language, but I don't think she's had personal contact like myself.
Are you sure Misha's not your mom? Because that sounds just like Misha. I was like, going, yeah, she's all the above and light language and the whole bit. So.
Yeah, and she's got the same kind of similar stories of always being extremely gifted. My whole family has tons of gifts and abilities, and we have had our whole life. And we just didn't talk. We don't talk about it except within the family, but it was very much accepted within the family.
Exactly.
And so after that time of being taken, I kind of did some research, and Clovis Air Force Base is 1 hour and 25 minutes away. And I was an hour and a half bus ride. So I thought, I wonder.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. Have you ever gone back there and looked at the base to see if it was the place?
No, I just thought that one, I don't know if it would still be there, even if it was. Chances are it's probably not. I have gotten like images, like I can describe certain missile bases. I have memories of being taken there as a first grader and a third grader on a field trip. And I can describe.
Does anybody else in your class remember that field trip? That's the question.
And also being in contact with somebody from first grade or second grade or third grade is definitely difficult. Since I don't even know where they would be. I moved around a lot since I was a military brat.
And that's the thing about it. They know they own you, so they move you around all the time. So how are you ever going to check on this stuff, right?
Exactly.
You know? God, the military's really got their act together. I'm telling you, as a terrorist organization, they do really well.
Yeah, they really do.
Oh my God! And now with AI, look, we're all completely surveilled on every thought we even have. So it's like there's no privacy anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're used to it. If you have telepathy, there's no privacy anyways.
Exactly. I was going to say, I used to hear people thinking all the time.
Yeah.
So who, what difference does it make now? And of course, you were probably like me. I grew up thinking everybody else had the same abilities.
Yes, exactly. Well, because it did for me and my family. We did. So we used our gifts, and it was the norm. And then when I started learning that no, not everybody is like me, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, it's a little weird, isn't it? Yeah. My grandmothers and I were always in contact. Everybody knows the story. I'll just repeat it for you real quickly. Basically, when my grandmother was out and about and we had dinner or something happening, my family finally realized that I was connected to her. My dad's mom, really much more so than my Italian grandmother, but her and I were very connected too. But anyhow, long story short, they'd say, "Where is she?" And I just look at it through her eyes and see where she was, and I'd tell them.
Yeah.
She'd come home, and they'd say, Lorien just told us that you were out shopping. She goes, "Oh yeah, I bought a great dress." I said, "Yeah, the blue one, I really like it," And we'd all laugh because I was just seeing through her eyes. I was doing major remote viewing. That's all it was,
Yeah.
So, but
that's
I just
all,
laughed.
just remote viewing.
Yeah, because it's like, my parents, they didn't have the gifts. Well, if they did, I think my dad was very gifted, but I think he just squelched every little bit of it. I think he was so afraid of it that he never even thought about it. You know what I'm saying? There's some people like that, and they're all a lot older. My dad would be 94 now, and he's dead a few years now. But literally, I think he just squelched everything. So, yeah. It's sad. It was a different era,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, okay, we got a break coming up in less than a minute. So, when we get back, I want to ask you well, first of all, what is your website so everybody can follow you? Let's start there.
Yeah, so all of my social media handles and my website are Mina Full Travels. So it's MINAFUL Travels with an S.com. And it's play on words like meaningful travels. So Mina Full Travels.
Wow, that's cool. I would never have thought of that. That's cool. So, but it's not two L's. It's just one L.
Just
right?
one L. Yep. So
okay.
Just one.
Cool. I like that. So, and that's all your social media, and is your website that as well? Do you have a website?
Yep, MinaFullTravels.com, and then Instagram is Minaful Travels, TikTok Minaful Travels, YouTube, and that's pretty much all I do.
Right.
I have
you
a
don't
Facebook
do Instagram
too.
or any of that.
Yeah, no, I have Instagram. I do Instagram. I have, I think, 20,000 followers on Instagram.
Wow, that's great. Good for you. Okay, the music's playing.
Yep.
You're going to mute, I'm going to mute, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the lady from the galaxy.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crip Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crip Rick's Anchor. Welcome to the crypt.
Mountain High Time, 2 hours of an organization to the madness, discussing the ever-changing dynamics of being both physically and mentally prepared for a plethora of possible outcomes to our future and present. A look into the latest technologies, new scientific discoveries, and how they might be used in connection to the human domain and controlling it, ancient cultures and places. Be warned. This is an opinionated look through headlines, guests that are not afraid to question the narrative, a little bit of crazy ramblings of a stoner conspiracy factus that pushes constitutional concepts. The place and the time are the same, another dimension we call Mountain High Time. Saturdays 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Mountain High Time, right here on Revolution.radio, where information never sleeps and truth breaks the spell.
Join me at Revolution Radio, Studio B, at 11 a.m. on Saturday for Free Association, when we take a look at philosophy, spirituality, psychology, social issues, and geopolitics. It's every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Studio B at freedomslips.com.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour.
You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Fenton Perspective here on Revolution.radio. I am so happy to have you guys with me here, and today with my wonderful friend from the Andromeda Galaxy. I finally got that figured out, and you guys know what time it is, though. It's the time where I tell you we're a listener-supported network, and we really do appreciate all of you guys helping us out here. And, yeah, what can I say? Every week I say the same thing, and I'm hoping it's getting through to you, you know. Maybe I'm complaining too much and, and no one's buying because of me. I don't know, but I'm just assuming that you guys are being really good, and you know that when I tell you we really need your help to make sure we make that over $2,000 a month here at the network without advertising from anybody. I mean, I have my sponsors for my show, but this network, we've never advertised a product on this show whatsoever. We only advertise our other shows, and that's it. So we have no way to make any money except for you guys giving it to us, and we really do appreciate it. But like I say every week, the most important thing for us is to budget. I am a bookkeeper. I'm a full charge bookkeeper. In other words, I make budgets. I pay pension plans. I deal with 401ks. I deal with timekeeping. I deal with payroll. I mean, I do all kinds of stuff. So I know the importance of a budget. And here's the most important thing to know. You've got to know what your income is going to be each month to project a budget, okay? And in order for us to do that, what we need are members, people that give us money monthly, and that, that's great. And it's wonderful if you give it to us once a year, too, because what they can do with that is they can put it away, and it can become part of the monthly income. So that's really cool. So I hope you guys want to do that. Now, someone's trying to get my attention. Oh, that's Solaris. Hi, Solaris. I just wanted to say hi to you. I love you so much. Okay, so there we go. There's Solaris. So she's checking in with me. That's good. And so the bottom line is, if we know that you gave us $60 for the whole year, fantastic. We'll divide it up to those $5 increments, and it will get divvied out over the year's time. That's wonderful. But if we know we've got 1,000 subscribers in the Patreon account that are giving us $5 a month, hey, we know that we're going to make $2,500 a month. And then we know we can pay all the bills. So that is the way I would like to see it happen. I know you guys get tired of me talking about this, but it's really important. $5 a month, that's all I ask. And if I can get a lot of you doing it, we'll never have to worry about keeping the electricity on. And what I know the station's trying to do this, we're trying to get more servers in more houses. Okay, that's really important. And I'm even thinking about offering up my house for a server box. We'll see. But it's important that all these servers are connected and that the main server keeps going and growing. We always need to get more parts for everything, so there's that too. So that extra $500 a month should be set aside, and I'm sure they're doing it because I'm sure somebody's a bookkeeper down at the management, and making sure that we have, important money set aside for equipment failure and replacement. So, I mean, that's what I would do in my business. So there you go. So that's what we need. I need you guys to go to revolution.radio. At the very top, there's a banner that says Revolution Radio, and right within it is a red button that says Patreon. And I'd like you to click on that, go to Patreon, become a member of our Patreon membership, and just say $5 a month. One less cup of coffee you get to buy at Starbucks. Sorry, but it's going for a good cause, and we really appreciate it. Now, if you want to make that once a year donation, you go up to the top of the banner, and it says Donate, and you can donate straight across there. You can do it through PayPal or Patreon, or I'm sorry, not Patreon, Bitcoin. We take everything. We'll even take a chicken, I think. Or a turkey. We'll take something. I think we can turn it into money. As long as we can turn it into money or gold. Gold would be great. We'll take gold too. We'll take anything. And jewels. We'll take diamonds and jewels too. Anyhow, we'll take anything you got as long as we can get $60 for the year or more. If you guys want to donate $1,000 one time, that'd be great. That'll keep us going for a lot of years. Okay? So thanks, you guys. I really do appreciate it. I really do, and thank you so much. Okay, so now on to my sponsors. I've got my new sponsor, and that's Bob Greska over at C-60. I'm telling you guys, between the combination of my longevity products and my C60 and my triple iodine from InfoWars, which I can't advertise them, but I'm telling you, I'm taking the X2 and the X3. Oh my God. Between the three of them, I've got more energy. I'm only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night now, and I don't need any more. I pop wide awake. I'm ready to rev. I'm ready to go. I drink my drink with all my stuff in it, my longevity products. Then I take my Bob Greska C60, and I'm running out the door, and then I take my iodine for lunch. And God, I'm just, there's no stopping me at this point. I mean, I just keep going. Right now I've got allergies or a cold going on, and I'm telling you, it's not hitting me nearly as hard as it usually does. And even if it is, it's not doing anything to me. I'm just snuffly, and that's about it, if snuffly is a word. So the first sponsor of the day is C-60.com. Like, just the letter C, and then a hyphen, and 60.com. It's Bob Greska's C60. He was on the show about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the man is the developer of the carbon 60 molecule, and he figured out how to make it so that we can actually eat it. And I've got the topical. Oh, did I tell you guys? I've got psoriasis really bad on my left knee, and I've had it there my entire life. I've got it on my right elbow, my left knee, both feet, both hands, and that's where it's been my entire life. It's just a real pain in the I don't even know how to describe it. But anyhow, point is, I've got psoriatic arthritis in my knee, and it's been very, very painful. And when I got the topical spray for the C60, oh my God, I put it on, and I swear to God, I haven't had that kind of pain, that horrific pain, since I started applying it topically. I don't know what happened, but it's working really well, and I do get a little pain in it once in a while, but no big deal. I just put some C60 on it, and it goes away. And it's nice and cool, and it feels good, and oh my God, I can't tell you how much I love my C60. It is so amazing. And that 1-2 punch, you go to longevity products, and what you want to do is you want to go to Paul, P-A-U-L dailywithdoc.com. That is paul.dailywithdoc.com. And you want to check out the longevity products that they've got up there on my portion of their website. They put together some packages of different products that you can buy, that the money, the commission, the little commission, which is 5% or whatever. I mean, we all know that, right? that'll go to my friend Paul. I'm trying to help him out. So I hope you guys can do that and help him out. But I'm telling you, the whole body toddy and their iodine's really good too. Don't get me wrong. I love their iodine as well. I take it too. And they have the fatty acid, the essential fatty acids. So I mix the essential fatty acids. I take their iodine when I'm out of the other iodine, and I mix it with the whole body toddy, and that is my breakfast. And then I take my C60, and oh my God, you guys, I'm like an engine. My boss can't even believe it. She says I can get a hold of you 24 hours a day now. Because I'm literally only sleeping 5 hours, and I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. So anyhow, you guys, it's wonderful. So I want you to go to c-60.com, and I want you to go to Paul, Paul, dailywithdoc.com. And you'll find both of those products there, and they are wonderful. And the combination, the 1-2 punch, I call it, wow, what an amazing thing. And then finally, and I'm running a bit late here, is Survive Max. My buddy Steve. Man, what amazing products. I got my little stove. I checked it out. It's wonderful. I boiled water in a few minutes. It's great. So if there's ever an emergency and I can't boil water, at least I can now. All I need is a few leaves, a few twigs, and this little Hummer, just it's amazing. So I got one of those little camp stoves that, you know, it looks like a little coffee can. I mean, it's not very big at all, and it's amazing the heat it puts out. Oh my God, it boiled water in a few minutes. It was fantastic. So anyhow, check out survivemax.com as well. All kinds of fun stuff there. It's one of those places you go, grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and you kind of peruse it and think, oh, I'll get that. Maybe I'll try that. And then buy yourself something fun. So there you are. Okay, we're back with Mina from Andromeda Galaxy. So I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Mina, are you still there?
Sure am.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a traveling vacation to all the different planets and different aliens, and maybe you can tell us about them.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Well, I can start in all the big species that I know about, and probably
cool.
some you know about, and probably some you don't. So let's see.
Hey, I don't know very many. I just know a couple of them.
Well,
I'm not well traveled in the galaxy yet. Sorry, that I know of.
Well, mine is just from having a lot of galactic knowledge history. So because I've had a lot of lives, a lot of incarnations, parallel lives, whatever you want to call them. And so I just have a lot of experience in that. So it's helpful. So I don't know everything about everything, but I know a lot about a lot.
Cool. Okay. So do you want to start with the Greys? I mean, everybody knows about the Greys. I'd love to hear your interpretation of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Greys, I call them the drowning man. And I'm going to explain why. Okay. So they are 51% service to others and 49% service to self. Now, that's just enough to be considered, on the side of the light, so to speak. But I call them the drowning man because their race is dying out. So let me ask you a question. Would you consider a drowning man a bad man?
Well, you wouldn't know until you rescued them and found out who they are.
Right. Well, even a good person in that, fight or flight mode might inadvertently drown you trying to survive.
That's true.
And that's the first thing that a lifeguard will tell you. And so it's not that they would ever want to do that if they were in their right mind, but if they're dying, they're trying to survive and they're not thinking. So that's kind of what I refer to the Greys as the drowning man. Their race is dying, and they have been trying to survive and try to kind of get their race to be, still here in the next, 20 years. So they are master time travelers. And they're always trying to pick the highest timeline in which they survive. Their highest timeline is one in which they survive. So because of that, they sometimes do things that aren't necessarily in alignment with what we would view as on the side of the light or the highest good. Because it's in their highest interest, but it might not be in ours. But They will always choose, if it's possible, to do and work for the light. Now, having said that, they focused a lot of their kind of focus on the intelligence and the spirituality side of things, which is great, but they really left their body to the wayside. And that was kind of what led to their downfall. And there's a lot of people that believe that the Greys are a future version of humans from another timeline. There's a reason why we're genetically compatible with them. Now, they just devoted all to, left their body to the wayside. They lost the ability to reproduce. They started dying off. And so they had to start integrating with technology because their bodies wouldn't sustain themselves anymore. So that's kind of some information about the Greys. They use a interesting kind of credit system, and they do have kind of a hierarchical system. But essentially there's Grey School, and there's all different kinds of interesting programs. They have interesting frequencies. It's very strange to be in their presence. And most people that don't have any contact with ETs can't stand it. They don't like it. They're paralyzed with fear because the frequency is so different.
Right, right. I totally get that. Now, the thing that I wonder about them, though, aren't there several types of species of Greys? Because I have actually seen through Stan Romanek and other people and talked to so many people that say, well, I deal with the one with the big round head, and they have the big eyes, and then and the other ones deal with the one that's more of an oval-shaped head that has flatter face, and then there's the ones that deal with the kind of leathery brown ones that look kind of wrinkly, and I mean, there's so many species.
There's
not
so many.
The same one, right?
Yeah, exactly. And typically, so when I refer to the Greys, I'm not talking about the ones from Zeta Reticuli, and I'm not talking about the taller ones. I'm not talking about the ones from Neptune, who technically aren't even gray. They're just gray skinned, but they're not really. They're not Greys.
They look more human, don't they?
Yeah, they have human eyes, and
exactly. And they're big and round.
Right. So most of them will wear contacts over their eyes. So if you took the contacts off, you would see their eyes are a lot different than they appear. But yeah, you have to understand too. They're putting synthetic parts because their parts aren't working. So this is the race I'm referring to, where they have the bodies that can be controlled. What is operable life forms? So they rent out their kind of computer controlled bodies, the smaller version of them.
So those are the ones the reptilians are working with, is the ones that they can control.
Well, so no, there are more that have actual controllable, programmable life forms. And so they will lean them, rent it out to other species, including some humans, by the way. That have access to these programmable life forms. But that's not the ones that are working with the Greys. So the thing is, how they are now and how they were 150,000 years ago is a big far cry from how they are now. So I like to think of them as, again, the drowning man who is like almost drowning now. So they're
I feel bad. I feel bad for them. Everybody's like, they're either terrified of them or they're this or they're that because their ability to control us. By the way, I'm sure you know this. They only can control us if we have an optical nerve that functions to our brain, because they have a frequency that can go right through our eyes. That's why they're always looking people in the eyes. People don't get that, but they look you dead in the eye. They zap you with this frequency, and you won't remember anything, or you'll do exactly what they say. It's pretty wild. And because I did a study back in the early 2000s, I kept asking everybody, show me a person that's been blind from birth that's a contactee.
Right.
Now, there are exceptions to that. There are people that are like us that are blind that can actually see, and they get contact.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And they can be contacted, but a normal person that's blind, they're never abducted.
Right.
Like that. Ever. I've never found one yet. And and maybe they wouldn't know if they were, but I mean, maybe they think it was a doctor or something, maybe a doctor's appointment. But I really have never found anybody, and so I think the gray ETs are telling us the truth about that.
Yeah, they
have told several of my friends, we can't control you unless we can look you dead in the eye and make that connection. So
yeah. So that's kind of the Greys, and so there's many different species that, there's the taller ones, the Zeta Reticuli, and they really are focused more on the body and focusing on the spirituality, maybe not so, or focusing on the intellect and focusing on the body and not so much on the spirituality side of things. So That's kind of that area.
Are they abducting too?
The Zeta Reticuli, as far as I know, aren't anymore. I know they were. I know that they had partnerships, but as far as I know, they're not anymore. Or they've been prevented from doing so. I'll say that.
Now, that makes sense, and I'll tell you why I think so. I've been looking at this. I'm 66. I've been looking at this phenomenon since I was 13 years old, so it's 53 years. I have noticed a huge change in the stories from contactees. Huge. I mean, just like used to be this abduction thing all the time, and their grandparents were taken, and I'm not sure which ones were taking them, but I think maybe the Zetas were at that point, maybe in their, in the 1900s. And all the way through maybe the 60s. And then I started seeing a change in the height and structure of the grays in the reports from about the late 70s all the way through 2000. And I think that's when it kind of went from Zeta Reticula to the ones you're talking about just now.
Yeah.
And they have a kind of a different program. I mean, I think the Zetas were really seriously intent upon finding out how we function more than they were the breeding program.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that breeding program really took hold in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, it was
and the Zetas and the Greys I'm talking about do not get along at all. They do not.
Well, that's interesting because I've always felt that. And everybody tells me, oh, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, no, I don't think they all like each other. I think there's some competition going on here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So at least I'm right on that account.
Yep.
So,
and then,
well, tell me what I need to know, and this is a burning question, is which are the ones working with the reptilians?
So which Greys?
Yeah, because they've got the little guys working with them.
So here's the thing, is they were selling those out, renting those out, or selling, it's kind of both. They were selling it out to the kind of highest bidder for those little programmable life forms. So those aren't real Greys. Those are just programmable life forms.
Yes, that's exactly what I've been told. Yeah.
Right. Good. So that's not the Greys working with. So that's kind of what I'm saying. So they'll do things that may not seem in line with kind of the highest timeline, but it's their highest timeline. So they're kind of just doing the best they can with what they got is really what it boils down to.
Their technology, people seem to think, and this is just from my perspective of them, people seem to think they've got all this massive, great technology. Yes, they've got the technology to work with us on a biological level. They could literally take a human being apart and put them back together again if they wanted to. And they have the ability to go through different dimensional time space. I mean, yes, and different galaxies, Yeah,
but I think they say that is because they gave us that liquid plasma that you could actually interact with. So whenever you're viewing, you can actually interact with on a physical level. So it enabled, different groups to see different timelines because they're good with time. So they're really, really good with time travel.
Yeah, absolutely. But as far as their, as compared to the Plagiarans or, the ones that look like humans, they have no, emotional, they don't have an endocrine system, so they don't even have chemicals going through their body to give them emotions. Right. I mean, they're lucky they got an outside skeleton or they'd just be falling down.
Exactly.
They're more insectoid.
Now they're definitely not advanced. I think they're talking about, then there was a time when they had some pretty cutting edge technology, but their prime is past. That's for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. Yeah, absolutely. And it makes total sense that the little, what I call organic mechanic life forms are being rented out to the reptilians.
Yeah.
Because they need people to do their bidding because they don't do well in our atmosphere now that it's been oxygenated.
Right, exactly. Let's
talk about the reptilians. What do you know about those guys?
There's a lot of different species of reptilians. There's reptilians that kind of moved into the inner Earth, and the reptilians have been on Earth for billions of years. And they were one of the first species, although the Greys would argue that because they just time travel earlier to land on the planet.
But exactly.
They essentially, they were kind of put on Earth as this far outpost from the Draconian Empire that was far away, and left to their own devices for a while. And so, because there wasn't a lot of life on planet Earth at that time, they had their little spout with the dinosaurs where they created, and they had their, testing things out. But, the majority of them have since evolved and advanced, and a lot of them went into the inner Earth, into the Argothan areas. Some of them still retain their kind of old agenda and didn't really ascend that much. And so there are definitely some good and some bad reptilians. But the reptilians, remember, are genetic offshoots of the Draconians mixing with celestial blood. So mixing with other light beings or beings of the light side, and then that's kind of how you get the reptilian. And then if you further were to dilute that, then you get the Anunnaki. So it's kind of interesting how they have that ability to make right choices and to ascend, whereas the Draconians don't have as much of that ability as the reptilians do.
Okay. Do you think the Draconians are visiting here at all?
So as to what my knowledge is right now, they no longer have influence or interference. What we're seeing is the dregs of what's left. And I know it doesn't seem like that, but just like a wound that's festering, it needs to be cleaned out. You kind of have to get all of the gunk out first and make it a little worse before it can begin to heal. And that's kind of the stage that we're at right now, is things are kind of coming to a head and clearing out so that it can make way for the new. So
very interesting. Okay. So what about, let's start talking about like the Billy Meyer beautiful aliens and the Raymond Keller time-traveling Venusians, and do you know much about any of those species that all look very human-like?
Yeah, so I'm not sure who the first person is. I know the Venusians. So that's the thing, like, a lot of this stuff because you talk to people in the community. I only have my own information, so I'm going to tell you the beings I know, and let's see if they relate.
Okay, let's see if they match up with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, so the Venusians, of course, so I associate those with the star system Polaris, and so the Venusians, of course, I know the Venusians. I've talked to quite a few, and I've worked with quite a few too in my Andromedan lives. But they're a very lovely race. They're very heart-centered and very love-based. And so I do enjoy working with them. They believe the best of every being, and they believe in multiple chances and kind of, giving beings the benefit of the doubt kind of thing. So they've actually worked closely with the reptilians, which is interesting, and even as an advocate for them. Now,
wow.
I'm not sure who the first one is, but I'll kind of tell you the humanoid ones that I know about. So we've got the divine serpent Hydra women. We've got the Speakins. We've got...
Wait. Let's stop. Let's go with each one as we go.
Okay.
The divine serpent, what women?
Hydra, yep, from Alphard. So essentially they are the keepers of divine knowledge, wisdom, and truth. There's a lot of stories. You would have heard about them, and you probably know some famous ones throughout history, but this is another race that I think really gets a bad rap because they embody both the light and the dark. And so really they're a matriarchal society, and there are not very many men, and so the women are in charge. They're high priestesses, and they have the ability to impart divine knowledge, wisdom, and truth. And what this means is that the person or being that is hearing it understands it on a soul level, that what they're saying is divine knowledge, wisdom, and truth, to the point that they accept it and acknowledge it. So it's the only woman you can't argue with, because what she says is divine knowledge, wisdom, and truth. So they can't lie, but they also can't be lied to. And so it's a really, really amazing being to be involved in negotiations, but also with ascension. When you have beings that have a lot of self-deprecating thoughts or self-limiting beliefs, you can help in that healing aspect by kind of negating those lies that they tell themselves, like I'm not loved, I'm not good enough, all of that. So throughout history...
Yeah, well, just one quick question. How does one interface with them? Do they come to Earth often, or do they visit certain people? Do they come in a spaceship? How are they interfacing with humans?
Yeah, so they were physical. They are physical, sorry, but they were more on the surface a long time ago. Now they've since retreated into the inner Earth realms, more so just because of their looks, can be a little jarring as a lot of races, especially with humans on the scene. Humans do not react well to things they don't understand or frightened by.
So what do they look like?
So they are kind of reminiscent to a serpent in the sense they're not overtly serpent, but let's say eyes, let's say skin, but more definitely humanoid, definitely walking around. So they're humanoid. They're just because they do come from Lorien descent. It's just a matter of the mixing of genetics that's kind of given them a little bit of that edge of reptilian, but it's not reptilian. So it's actually more Orion Nebula, which would be amphibious. So the mixture there, yeah, and then there's a bit also of the safe, and that's kind of insectoid too. So essentially they were kind of throughout history have been helping humanity, and because again embodying both the light and the dark, one cannot exist without the other. We don't even know what light is without the absence of it. So they have a very important place, and they've worked a lot, especially in galactic alliances and collaborations. So that's kind of the Hydra, and I love them. I think they're great. I haven't had a life as them, but I know a lot of people that did, and they've got some amazing language, and they're a beautiful race.
Oh, I gotta say, there's a story of I think it's Colonel Corso, ends up in a cave, and he's dealing with this woman species that is, I think that's what he encountered. I don't think he knew what it was. I think he thought it was a reptilian kind of being, but I think that's what he encountered, because she was very wise and guided him through his journey with the ETs he was dealing with. Mm-hmm. And this was back in I think he dealt with that probably in the late 50s or early 60s, something like that. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Very cool. And she was living in a cave that had a pond, like in the center of it was water.
Yeah.
And she would swim around in it. So I got a feeling that's what she was. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. Oh, that's so cool.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah. So the next species that I was dealing with, I just want to throw this out there to see if you know about it, is the Plagiarans or Pleiadians.
Oh, yeah, of course. I had a life as a Pleiadian.
Oh, cool. Well, so tell me about, I don't know much about these guys, except for they're really good looking and hunky. The guys are hunky.
The ones you would probably know about are from Maya and Alcyon. Yeah, so there's 4 main groups. There's Maya, Alcyon, Taigetan, and Pleione. And so the Maya and the Alcyon are what you typically think of Pleiadians, very human, kind of decently normal sized and, beautiful and all of that. Then the Taigetans are the tall whites, the Nordics, they're like 8 feet tall, and that's the life I had. And they're very, very wise, and they are very highly ascended. They actually can have a Merkaba light body, and so they're kind of a different, thing. And the ones from Pleione.
That's what I communicate with. Because I do light body beings. I don't do the one that came by my bed was not a body. It was just like light body. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's usually their Merkaba light body. And actually I have so many videos I post on my Instagram of these Merkaba light bodies floating around the sky, and they look like little rainbow orbs that are like cruising along. And that's actually somebody having a Merkaba light body. So it's pretty cool to see.
Cool. I like that.
And then the ones from Pleione are less humanoid in, we would think if we're looking at they're humanoid, but they less distinctly human-like. You know what I mean? So they're still beautiful and but they're alien. And they all have a lot of the similar agenda, which is to help different races in ascension and to be of service to different galactic alliances. Of course, there's probably going to be good and bad in all races, but, it is what it is.
Wow.
For the majority, I would say that they were all benevolent.
Now, do these guys interface with us on a regular basis? Are they talking to us? Are they are guiding us? I mean, do they have a human they're assigned to? I'm still trying to figure out what the gig is with these guys.
Yeah. So for me, I do a lot of auto writing, autography. So that's how I channel them. It's interesting because I channel and do light language, but for the Pleiadians, I do photography, and I don't know what the reason. And I see them. I see ships. I have videos of it. I have ships that follow me around, and I have videos of it. But it's interesting because I have friends that do their light language, and I have friends that channel them like directly verbally. And for whatever reason, they choose photography with me, and I'm not sure why. And I think it's because I'm Taigetsan, and they don't really speak in the same way. They more deal with telepathy. And so I think definitely for sure channeling, but also, like I said, the Merkaba light ships. Now, the other types of Pleiadians, of course, have actual typical ships. And so that's kind of more, everybody sees the two things of Pleiadians.
When you say typical ship, are you talking about the ones that are kind of like a flying saucer image of what everybody sees from the 50s? Or are we talking about a plasma ship like we're seeing a lot more of these days?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Well, to me, that's typical. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine, because I'm so old. I remember the Model T of the UFO world.
Right. Yeah, but typical today's ships, plasma, where they can cloak and do these beautiful like rainbow type formation, because they have the ability to change that now. I mean, now it's so much cooler, right?
I've
been
upgraded. Some amazing ships. I mean, I've seen one that's teardrop shaped, that's kind of a glowing emerald green, and it's phosphorescent looking, and oh my God, some of the ships they've got are just mind-boggling to me.
Yes. Same with the Andromedans. I love the Andromedan motherships. They look like giant rainbow. They're usually over Asian countries, and they're massive. We're talking, the size of a football field. And they have, you've probably seen them. They're beautiful, like rainbow, and it looks like there's something, some kind of object that's made out of rainbows, but it's solid. You can see it's solid, and it has crazy like edges, and it looks like it's just separate from the sky, but also a part of it.
Exactly, and I always say it looks like an abalone shell that's not quite as gray. Yeah, because you know how the abalone is beautiful with that rainbow opalescence. Iridescent opalescence. And I just think you can kind of see through it, but it's there and it's shimmering and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So and why are they over the Asian countries? You're right, because I don't see very many in the United States. I mean, I haven't traveled, but my guess is the one I did see was in Nevada, so it wasn't. It wasn't like it was out in the middle of the freaking desert. It wasn't anywhere near a city. That's for sure.
Yeah. So Andromedans tend to, especially, there's very few starseeds that originate from the Andromeda galaxy. Okay. I'm not talking about the constellation, the galaxy.
Yeah.
There are very few right now incarnated. And the reason for that is they do need a certain bloodline, and it does have to be Asian. Believe it or not, I have Korean and Filipino from my mom's side. And so that's why they're always over Thailand or China. It's something to do with the bloodline. And in Asia, in let's say India, so the blue beings that were their gods and that they were Andromedan, and the hand symbols that they do, it's so funny because when I do my light language, I do things with my hands and I'm forming sacred geometry. And I had an Indian friend say, "Who taught you how to do mudras?" And I was like, "What is a mudra?" And so, I looked it up, and then they're these symbols. And I was like, "Oh, we taught you. I didn't know that." So, it's essentially you're creating type of portals or sacred geometry with your hands to channel energy. So essentially those figures throughout history were Andromedan. And so they're always have been associated with Asian. I mean, India is in Asia. So it's just kind of something to do with the bloodline, is what I've been told, and basically it doesn't go any deeper than that. So even Andromedans.
So I got to ask you. I got to ask you a dumb question. So why aren't they like short with dark hair and slanted eyes then? Why are they looking like tall Nordic? I mean, are these the tall Nordic ones, or these look completely different and I don't know about it?
Andromedans or?
Yeah, well, whoever is parked over the Asian countries.
Yeah, so a lot of the Andromedans are light beings, so they don't have a body per se.
Okay, but they just need that bloodline or genetics to be able
hold
to
they
need the frequency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're really, they're really good with technology. Even the ones that do have bodies are exceptional with technology. And all technology has been gifted to humans in some form or fashion, either through the quantum field or by direct, giving by the Andromedans.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So that has something to do with that too. Might be because the Asians tend to be more logical, or balance of logic and creativity. So maybe that's kind of why. Not always, but as a general, they tend to be a little bit more studious and liking to learn and kind of that kind of thing. So I think it could have something to do with that maybe, but also I think it has something to do with the frequency of being a light being. And then when we come down right now, some people have an avatar. This is their human avatar, and they have a body in a ship. You've probably heard of this. They have like an oversoul, an ET body in a ship with a crew.
Yep. I know all about that.
I have a crew, but I'm a light being, so my entire body is streamed into this human avatar. So when I get taken, my body deactivates, quite literally. It's happened to people. I've even had to be taken to the emergency room. It's a whole thing. So, my body goes straight.
Wait, slow down. I'm like going, wait a minute. So if they okay, so you do have a ship out there that you're actually on at the same time or not?
No, because I'm a light being, my light being form is inside my human body.
Got it. Okay, so if they do take you, then your human body dies.
Well, it deactivates. It doesn't die. It just goes into like a homeostasis. So my heart rate, and I have an Apple Watch, and I take screenshots to prove this, but my body deactivates avatar style. Like the body goes limp, and my heart rate and my consciousness drop. So I go from, let's say, your watch can record your sleep, right? I have an Apple Watch that records my sleep.
Yeah.
And my heart rate goes from waking state to like I'm like dead sleep. And it stays, and it doesn't move one beat from that 73 beats per minute, flatline.
Wow.
And my awakeness goes from awake to deep instantly, and it flatlines for the entire time I'm gone. And so it's literally like Avatar style. Like it deactivates, and then I'm, doing what I'm doing over there. So it can be a little jarring, especially if there's one time they did it where it was during the day, and I was with my mom camping, and it was a whole fiasco, and having to go to the emergency room. And so, it was a whole thing, and that was really interesting.
Well, that's because they can't wake you up.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. See, this all makes total sense now. I'm thinking about it. That makes sense. Yeah. Oh. Cynthia Crawford was some type of, she's on a ship, her body's there. And at one point, 4 of us ladies were standing in front of her, and her eyes shifted into slits. We actually saw her reptilian eyeballs, or maybe it was that wise woman kind of being.
Yeah, it could have been Hydra.
My guess is that it was probably that, now that I know about it.
Yep.
See?
Yep.
That's really cool. But she swears, and she called me right before she died and said, Lorien, they all came to me and they said, you got to do something. And I said, well, what is it? She goes, I don't know, but I'll let you know when I get back on the ship. She goes, you work with me on the ship. Your body's right next to mine, and I'm going back. So I'll let you know. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And more work for me to do. So apparently I'm on a ship too, but who knows? I mean, I believe Cynthia.
I'm so excited then for you to do a Galactic History Report with me, because I will literally tell you every incarnation, and you will see and know exactly, and it parallels this life. So it's really cool. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'll do that for you.
Well, okay. So let's talk about that for a minute before we get on to my next species that I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
But so what do you actually do for people, and how can they find it and order up this kind of report?
Yeah, you can go to my website and click book a reading. But essentially I offer light language, personalized light language like healings. But then I do what I'm probably most well known for, and what I recommend you start with first, which is the Galactic History Report. And so I take your time of birth, your date of birth, and your location, just like you would an astrological report. And I put it into a program that I created, and I give you a PDF, an actual PDF that will show you every parallel incarnation you've had from the moment you fractaled from source. Now, this doesn't include implanted lives, and I'm not going to talk about that, but essentially we'll do every incarnation. And so we'll talk about it. I'll tell you what you did, your jobs. I'll tell you who you were connected. We'll do a full in-depth karmic analysis. We'll go over all your gifts. We'll talk about blockages. All of this in a 2-hour long reading. And I highly recommend you start there because it's going to answer so many questions. And every person I've ever done, literally every person is like, oh my God, this explains so much. This is why this is why that. And often it will explain contacts and it will, reflect that. And so it's pretty cool. So
would you recommend, it sounds like I would recommend this to my friends who are very lost in their contact. I have a lot of friends that are still seeing like therapists and still getting hypnotized about their trauma around this whole either the grays or almost dying and being revived by ETs or Plagiarians or Palladians or whatever. And a lot of people just have so much trauma around it, whereas I'm just like, who cares? I've always been like that, though. I'm probably like you.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's just for that. I would say it's for anybody who has gaps or wants to know like specifics of like why, they had this connection, or because this whole existence is about integrating and becoming this multidimensional being, integrating all of those lives and kind of embodying that. And so that's why we're in this time of remembrance. So this helps with that. And this is an activation as well, in the sense that it will help activate more downloads, more memories. Every client I have is like having dreams afterwards, remembering things. So this will help like plug in any holes and explain things.
Okay. So you probably still suggest that they go in and get their therapy and their hypnosis to find out what actually happened during an episode, but this kind of puts all the pieces together as to maybe why that is even going on, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So this will give you the how and the why.
Yeah. Very cool. So they need to do a 1-2 punch. They need to see you first and then go get hypnotized.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, good. Okay. Now that I know what to do, that's wonderful. Okay. Very good. All right. So back to the ETs. We were talking about the blue beans that the Indians, the Indian population has as their ET guys, and so their ships that used to fly around called, I can't remember what they're called, the Vedas. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's a few different species that were kind of involved with the Indian of the Hindu culture. Of course, the Andromedans, the Arcturians, and also a lot of that maybe people don't know about, but the Blue Rays. And so from Aldebaran. So they are light beings. And again, notice all 3 of those beings are blue. So it's interesting.
That's interesting.
Which is why they, Gilgamesh, most of their gods, I think, are represented by these blue beings. So it's pretty interesting.
It's interesting because Cynthia Crawford used to make the statues of all the ETs, the different ETs, and the ETs would come to her. A person would walk up to the table, and the ET would tell her which ET on her table was supposed to go with that person, which was their heritage, right?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so I'd be sitting there at the conference with her, and she'd be like, oh, there's a blue bean person. It's like, okay. She had all these really amazing blue beans that she used to make that were just so cool looking. Anyhow, I've got one of her statues she sent me, and it was just gorgeous. And I can't remember if he's blue or not, but I don't think so, but who knows. But anyhow, it was a lot of fun. Because she really knew where everybody was coming from, and their little statue, would bring back memories for them. It wasn't like she was just making statues to make them, right? I mean, every one of them was assigned to a person, and she knew ahead of time kind of who was going to buy it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a trigger too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what she said. Yeah, the minute they get it in their house, they're like, all of a sudden, all the memories come back, and they know what happened. And
yes, that's what happens with my report. So that
exactly.
Absolutely.
I was going to say she did the old school type of report that you're doing now with the computer.
Right.
She just did it with clay.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting.
So cool.
I like it. I like the way technology is moving here. You know. That's cool. So, okay, so we got these blue beings, and they're all pretty much from the same portion of the universe. Is that what you're telling me, or galaxy?
No. So there's the Andromedans that come from the Andromeda galaxy. There's the Arcturians, which come from even further than that. And then there's the blue rays from Aldebaran, which come from the Aldebaran section. But essentially, they're the Arcturians and the blue rays are light beings. The Andromedans, of course, are light beings as well. So it's interesting. They don't have physicality.
So how did the Indians see them as their gods then, as people that were blue, maybe with one eye or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So I said but the Andromedans have the ability to shapeshift, and that's also one of my abilities. That's why I can wear any hair color, any hairstyle, and just pull it off. It's because they would only choose to shapeshift their energy. It's not like shapeshifting in the sense like the reptilians might do or something. It's shape-shifting their energy. They're transmuting it or involuting down into physicality. So they would never do it to another light being is what I'm saying. So it would only be taking high density, going to lower density. So they do this because they're master communicators, master diplomats, mediators, mitigators. And so they're really good at that, and they do it to form connection. So what better way to understand another species than to choose to incarnate as one of them so that you can speak on their level? And that's exactly what they did, and that's what they do. And so that's kind of their role. So almost every one of them sit the council. And the other ones are commanders or things like that. So there's, like I said, there's not very many, but the ones that are there have been around for a long time. So.
Wow, very cool. Now, was there actually a war over India? Because, they had the whatever those ships are fighting with other ships, and the blue beings fighting with other kind of like demon-looking reptilian characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do know that there were some other beings that were involved, and especially the Andromedans from the Andromeda constellation. So remember, the Syrians are also blue, and a lot of the Syrians are. So the Andromedans themselves don't mix with other races, but the Syrians do, and the Andromedans from the Andromeda constellation are actually Syrian. So they're just living inside of the Andromeda constellation, so they get the nickname. But they're blue, and so they have physicality, and they have absolutely come forward and helped and assisted. I mean, just like many races had in the history that's long forgotten or, discarded or hidden. So. Yes.
So do you think, I'm just wondering if you think there was a battle going on between the reptilians and the Syrians over the Indian territories on Earth?
Like over the land itself?
Yeah, because they have literally reports in the Bhagavad Gita and all of their text about the flying triangle ships that were fighting these other type of ships and these beings, these winged beings that would come out of them.
Yes. Oh, okay. Those are the Almachians, the Andromedan Almachians. Yeah. So again, from the constellation, but those winged beings, there's even depictions of them in ancient Sumatra on the temples.
Exactly.
7 feet. Yeah. Those are the Almachians. But what I'm saying is it wasn't over land. It wasn't over something like that. That's very human. That's a human's take on it. It was much more bigger thing. It wasn't something that was materialistic. It was over basically what the reptilians wanted to control that sect of humans and that type of thing. So it was more of a liberation kind of thing and trying to protect the humans. So.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I was just trying to figure out because they wouldn't have put that in their history if they hadn't even seen it.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely saw it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So it was real, because a lot of people out there nowadays say, "Oh, that was just their religious manifestation of a story that they thought they heard." I'm like, wait a minute, why would you even do that and go through all those painstaking drawings?
Right.
If it wasn't for real, it's like, I guess you can make up a story like Grimm's fairy tales, and that may be what a lot of people think it is, but I don't.
And they could have been channeling too. Remember, they work on Ayurvedic, which is the healing of the pineal gland.
That's true.
And so they're channeling, and so they could be channeling events, because I never saw it that the humans were present. I saw that this event happened, but it wasn't over necessarily humans, but I think more it's channeling, so they're seeing it in that way because that's all they do is Ayurvedic training.
That's true, and there's a lot of monks there that,
Yeah.
sit around and do spiritual work. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it could be. Well, you're not going to believe this. There's only 3 minutes left in the show. I can't even believe it. I just looked down and went, what? So, before we sign off, I do want you to repeat everything for everybody to get a hold of you and get their report, because now I know you do the reports. Oh, my God, this is going to be so cool.
Yeah.
But quickly, what is your favorite being out there of all the beings that you've dealt with or been or are? Which one is your favorite that you like to commune with?
I communicate daily with my Andromedan self. I mean, that was the last one that I integrated. But I got to say that of all I communicate, that's probably up there. But I really, really adore the cetacean beings and the mermaids. And I had a life on both. And it's still one of my favorite lives to have lived. Because the freedom and just how loving and just the way that they think is so vastly different. And it's just, it's a fresh breath of fresh air,
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, they don't think like we think at all. It's totally about getting to maybe the next place and being with your pod,
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
and
a communal thing.
Exactly, and they understand that the light and the dark are two sides of the same coin. So they don't judge. They don't have that kind of like holding a grudge or anything like that. They just really understand the big picture of things, and they really are kind of running everything through their feelings, their heart, essentially.
Wonderful. Okay, repeat your website and tell everybody how to find you.
Okay, so my website is MinaFullTravels.com. That's M as in Mina, INAFUL travels with an S in the end, .com. Cool. And then that's on all my social media too. You can find me with Mina Full Travels.
And people can Facebook instant message you, and same with all the others, and get their report from you. Now, the report's 2 hours, right? Or
correct.
Does it go less or more? Or?
It takes every bit of 2 hours, and I usually don't stop talking the entire time. We do have time for questions afterwards, so it's a lot of information, and they are recorded, so you have it for later. So it's on Zoom.
That's great.
And I annotated.
So we gotta go. But thank you, sweetheart. It's been wonderful to have you on the show, and I will see you soon. Everybody else, we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Revolution